Morning, guys. It's Tuesday morning. I kind of want to touch back down where my phone cut out last time with my whole reasoning for this YouTube bullshit. When I was in the county with my friend Matthew Richardson, who got a 55-year murder sentence. I believe where I left off was he came back from trial. It broke me the news that he got a 55-year sentence handed down to him. And that was on a Thursday, the same day that our Bible study was. So this kid was acting like it wasn't even going to affect him. He said, Blade, he goes, I'm going to appeal it with the Supreme Court, and I'm going to get out and I'm going to sue this city, this detective, this police department. And he said, we'll go on a 2-month vacation to Hawaii on him, which I knew that was just a bunch of shit, wishful thinking. But where you're locked up, that's all you can do is plan your next move and think wishfully for whatever could get you out of your mental mindset at the time. So that was a Thursday evening. He came back to the pod, told me his sentence that he had. Well, that same night was Bible study. And I'm more worried about this kid's situation than he was at the time. He's pretty confident that he could appeal it. So we go to Bible study like an hour and a half after he comes back from being found guilty. And we would always start out the Bible study with a prayer. And we had 3 volunteers in there who were pastors in different churches. And they said, who would we like to say a prayer for to start the session? And my boy Matt stands up and he puts his arm around me. He says, I'd like to say a prayer for my brother Blade so he can get home to his kids as soon as possible. And I shed a tear ASAP because here this kid got 55 years in prison, and the first prayer that he wanted to say was for me. I mean, I don't know what else to say except for this kid was probably one of the most unselfish people that I've ever met in my life. So the whole group says a prayer for me, and one of the counselors looks at me and he says, Brad, when are you getting out of here? And I told him, I said, I don't know. I'm on a no bond. He goes, well, when you do get a bond and you do get released, what do you plan on doing? And I answered the question quick. I said, I'm going back to the life I was living. And this man looked at me. He said, make no mistake. He said, the minute these doors open and you walk out as a free man, he said, the devil is going to be in the parking lot doing push-ups waiting for you. And that hit a nerve with me. Kind of messed my head up a little bit because I knew this guy wasn't lying. And so a couple months go by. My lawyer was working hand in hand with the prosecutor, and I was finally able to get a bond. And my father, and a couple counties over for where I live, he is the chief deputy coroner for the coroner's department. So and prior to that, he was a police officer for 36 years. He was the commander of the Major Crimes Task Force, so any major homicide that went on and the major crimes would come into play. My dad would be the voice. He would be doing all the interviews with all the news crews and all the press release. And I never told anybody this when I was locked up. You don't really want to tell a room full of animals that your father's X50 in a corner in the county. So I just kept that tucked under my hat. So I get this bond and I pull my homie Matt to the side and I told him, I said, look, bud, I said, my dad worked this case. He body bagged this guy. He pronounced him dead. And I said, when I get freed out of here, I said, I'm going to do everything I can for your appeal process. Because every night we would talk about his appeal, about going to the Supreme Court and trying to get this overturned. And I want to tell you shortly how the murder happened. So I'm telling Matthew this, and you could just see the hope in his eyes, you know, that maybe there was going to be a route out of this. So I get freed out. Come home to my family. Still wasn't living life right at the time. I was still wild, doing some crazy stuff. I was collecting money for a certain organization, and it was just a dishonest living. So as I'm freed out, I got all Matthew's contacts, his mom, his father, his brothers. So I get out and he had a surveillance video on his house when the murder happened. There was no audio and the video was like real grainy, but you could still see what was going on. So Matthew hires one of the best criminal defense lawyers, probably in the Chicagoland area. And each transcript for your pages for your appeal is about 88 cents a sheet. Well, your appeal could be 20,000 pages. It could be 16, 17,000. So you do the math on the amount of money that you have to come up with to give the attorney so he can go in front of the Supreme Court and try to appeal a conviction. And we all felt like it was worthy of it. So I end up taking his parents out to dinner. I see the surveillance footage of what happened. And what happened was him and his girlfriend were leaving a Menards in Portage. Since he got paid off YouTube, I mean, the kid had a Mustang with Lamborghini doors. He was kind of flexing, with what he had, which doesn't make him a bad person. He's a young kid. I probably would have done the same. So he pulls out in front of this guy, cuts him off, and he puts his hand out the window like, hey, man, my bad. So this guy is following him, and he's trying to run him off the road. And my boy even took his iPhone and was recording it as it was going down. And he literally ran in his car. So he calls his brother and he says, hey, I'm pulling up to the house in about 2 minutes. This guy's trying to run me off the road. Just pop the garage and I'll just pull in the garage. So his brother had like MS or something like that. So my homie Matthew pulls into the garage. The guy trying to run him off the road pulls in his driveway and gets out with a tire iron. So not only did this guy follow my boy trying to run him off the road for road rage, he followed him home and pulled into his property, onto his driveway. So Matthew's brother, who's got MS, pulls out a baseball bat, and these dudes just start going to war. And Matt never drank a beer in his life, never smoked a cigarette, never smoked a joint. Just a clean kid, good kid. And about 4 weeks prior, he bought an SKS assault rifle off his neighbor, and even the barrel wasn't attached. It wasn't screwed in or bolted down. So on the video, Matt runs in the house and he grabs this SKS and he's holding it at the hip. You can see it on the video and you can't hear what's being said. But my boy Matthew told me, he pointed the gun at him and said, get the fuck off my property. So this guy's girlfriend is running into the barrel yelling, shoot me, motherfucker. Matt didn't fire. Then the guy with the tire iron started coming at Matt. And he claims he meant to fire a round off into the ground. Whether that's the truth is not for me to judge. None of my business even. All I know, this guy followed him home and was creating havoc on his property where his family lives. So from the hip, Matthew fires a round off and it hits the guy in the leg. On the video, the guy fought for maybe another 30 seconds before he realized he was even shot. The guy realized he was hit. Him and his girlfriend load up in the car and sideswipe a few cars and then hits a tree in front of the people down the road, hit a tree in their front property. 911 was already called. They show up and they take this guy via ambulance to the hospital for a gunshot wound to the leg. Well, Matthew wasn't arrested right away. This guy ended up dying 3 days later in the hospital because that SKS round is a gnarly one. I want to say it's a 7.62 cal, and those are some big bullets that take out an elephant. Well, that bullet hit an artery in his leg, and the guy ended up dying from a severed artery and basically bled out internally. So county came and got Matt 3 days later, hooked him up for murder. What makes this story even more gnarly, his family for the appeal already gave this attorney a shit ton of money, man. We're talking 16, 17 grand to try to get in front of the Supreme Court. And this guy had a drinking problem. He was an alcoholic, and Matt's trying to contact him. Matt's already transferred to Indiana State Prison. There's 4 joints in Indiana, Miami, damn it, I can't think of the names of them, but I know there's one called Miami in Indiana. And then Michigan City, Indiana is Indiana State Prison, one of the oldest prisons in Indiana. Not a place you want to go. It's a shithole. I visited him a few times in prison, and it's the oldest ran down building. And there's nothing but murders in this place. And I asked him if he was going to click up with some kind of gang or some shit like that. And, you know, a young kid like that, and a dude's 6'2" and maybe 180 pounds wet, and we were in the county, I'd make him do push-ups with me every day, just to try to get him right, mentally, strength-wise, just so when he goes to prison, he's got a game plan. He stayed neutron, which neutron means neutral. He doesn't want anything to do with any gang, no affiliation in there. He told me he just wanted his appeal process to go through, and within the next year or two, possibly have it overturned and be free. This guy followed him home to his property, got out with a tire iron and started to fight. Matthew didn't instigate it, you know, and God rest that dude's soul that passed away. But I mean, let's face it, if you fuck with the bull, eventually you're going to get the horns. And he ended up getting the horns that day. So Matthew's parents are giving this guy all kinds of money. He's got the money, 16, 17,000, I can't remember what it was. So Matthew's trying to contact his lawyer from prison. This guy's not answering. His parents, every time they're texting him, this guy or calling, he says he's in trial with another client. Well, this guy ends up getting his law license suspended, his bar license, for being a shit person. He's an alcoholic, took all their money. So this guy flees to Florida, and they find him dead in an RV. So now we got plan B. I was going to try to get my dad, since he's a coroner, for this appeal on the witness stand. And we were going to have Matthew's new lawyer cross-examine my dad and you know, ask, when you shoot to kill, when you shoot and you want to kill somebody, where do you aim? Well, obviously, waist up. Not in the leg. The leg shot was more to wound the guy. But he shot him with an elephant bullet. And unfortunately, the guy met his demise and passed 3 days later. So when I say Matthew's not really a killer, I mean, yeah, he killed the guy, but that wasn't his intention that day. And he'll forever have to deal with the consequences for it. A 55-year sentence. You know, I pray one day that things work out in his favor and this kid could have his life back. But it makes you think, in the heat of a moment, one wrong decision will forever ruin your life. And to me, it's just not worth it. And there's a word I want to call out right now, and this word's called accountability. We all have to have it somehow, some way. You can't live life in excuses, making excuses for your actions. Being accountable is owning it, saying, I made a mistake. And this could be put in any kind of situation in life. I think we've all had situations where we were like, you know what? Yeah, I fucked up. I did that. But I did it because of that situation. You know, there's a point in life where we all have to say, you know what? I was wrong. I made the wrong mistake, and I'm going to own my wrong. And that's called accountability. And I want to finish this video off, though, on a positive note. And I'll get more into the Matthew Richards situation. It's crazy. He ended up starting out with an Xbox, sold it on the internet, flipped it, made money, bought this, flipped it, made money, bought a shitty old Kawasaki motorcycle, flipped it, made money. Well, he ended up getting a Ford Rambler, a really nice one, and put it on ClassicCars.com. Well, he ended up trading Jesse James from West Coast Choppers. He came to my town for a dually truck. It says West Coast Choppers on every angle of the vehicle and a motorcycle trailer, but that'll be another video.